The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and deeply rooted struggle over land, identity, and self-determination. It has its origins in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with the rise of both Zionism, a movement advocating for a Jewish state in Palestine, and Palestinian nationalism. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War led to Israel's establishment and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. This event, known as the Nakba or catastrophe by Palestinians, remains a source of deep trauma and resentment. Subsequent wars in 1967 and 1973 further solidified Israel's control over the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem, territories claimed by Palestinians for a future state. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, aimed to establish a framework for peace based on a two-state solution. However, the peace process faltered due to continued violence, settlement expansion in the occupied territories, and mistrust between the two sides. The situation deteriorated further with the outbreak of the Second Intifada in 2000, marked by Palestinian uprisings and Israeli military responses. Years of failed negotiations, continued occupation, and growing frustration fueled a cycle of violence and despair. The situation reached a boiling point on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel. This event marked a turning point in the conflict, leading to an unprecedented escalation of violence and further deepening the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The historical context, marked by displacement, occupation, and broken promises, serves as a crucial backdrop for understanding the current situation. On October 7, 2023, Hamas, the Palestinian militant group controlling the Gaza Strip, launched a multi-pronged assault on Israel. The attack involved a barrage of rockets fired into Israeli territory, targeting civilian areas and military installations. Simultaneously, Hamas fighters infiltrated the border, engaging in direct combat with Israeli forces and taking hostages. The attacks, which included a massacre at a music festival near Zikkim Beach, shocked Israel and the international community. The audacity and scale of the operation, unprecedented in recent years, resulted in significant casualties and sparked widespread panic. Israel, caught off guard, vowed a swift and severe response, labeling the events an act of war. The October 7th attacks served as a stark reminder of the ever-present threat of violence in the region. They shattered any illusions of a peaceful resolution and ushered in a new chapter of bloodshed and despair. The images of destruction and the stories of loss reverberated globally, leaving the world bracing for a potentially catastrophic escalation. Israel's reaction to the October 7th attacks was swift and merciless. Launching a full-scale military offensive, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, unleashed a relentless bombing campaign on the Gaza Strip. Airstrikes targeted Hamas infrastructure, including tunnels, weapon depots, and command centers. However, the strikes also resulted in widespread devastation of civilian areas, leveling entire neighborhoods and leaving countless Palestinians homeless. The IDF imposed a complete land, air, and sea blockade on Gaza, cutting off essential supplies including food, water, and medicine. This siege, combined with the relentless bombardment, created a catastrophic humanitarian crisis for the 2 million Palestinians trapped within the densely populated enclave. Israel's military operation extended beyond airstrikes. Ground troops entered Gaza, engaging in fierce urban warfare with Hamas fighters. The fighting resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, with Palestinian civilians bearing the brunt of the violence. The IDF's tactics, including the use of heavy artillery and indiscriminate firepower in densely populated areas, drew widespread international condemnation and accusations of war crimes. The ongoing conflict has plunged Gaza into a humanitarian catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. The relentless Israeli bombardment, coupled with the crippling blockade, has created a living hell for its residents. The United Nations has described the situation as catastrophic, with over 90% of the population requiring urgent humanitarian assistance. The healthcare system in Gaza has collapsed under the strain of tens of thousands of casualties. Hospitals, already ill-equipped and lacking essential supplies due to the blockade, are overwhelmed with the influx of injured. Medical personnel are working tirelessly in harrowing conditions, often without adequate equipment or medicine. The lack of clean water, sanitation, and proper hygiene has created a breeding ground for disease. Outbreaks of waterborne illnesses and infectious diseases are rampant, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. The situation is particularly dire for children who are disproportionately affected by malnutrition, trauma, and the loss of education. While the Gaza Strip has borne the brunt of the recent violence, the situation in the occupied West Bank has also deteriorated significantly. The escalation in Gaza has ignited tensions and sparked protests across the West Bank, met with a heavy-handed response from Israeli forces. The IDF has increased its military presence in Palestinian cities and villages, conducting raids, arrests, and imposing movement restrictions. Settler violence against Palestinians and their property has also surged. The combination of military occupation, settler violence, and the lack of a political horizon has created a climate of fear and despair among Palestinians in the West Bank. The international community has largely focused on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. However, the plight of Palestinians in the West Bank, living under a system of occupation and facing daily human rights violations, must not be ignored. Section 6. Allegations of atrocities, war crimes, and international law. The ongoing conflict has been marked by numerous accusations of war crimes and violations of international law by both sides. Human rights organizations have documented evidence of indiscriminate attacks on civilian targets, disproportionate use of force, and the targeting of medical facilities and personnel. Israel's blockade of Gaza, which has severely restricted the flow of essential goods and services into the enclave, has been condemned as collective punishment, a violation of international law. The United Nations has called for an end to the blockade, warning that it is exacerbating the humanitarian crisis and pushing Gaza to the brink of collapse. Hamas's indiscriminate firing of rockets into civilian areas in Israel also constitutes a violation of international law. The group's use of human shields and its tactic of launching attacks from densely populated areas have been widely condemned. Section 7. A World Divided, the International Response. The international community's response to the escalating conflict has been marked by division and a lack of effective action. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has consistently blocked efforts at the United Nations Security Council to condemn the violence and call for a ceasefire. The UN General Assembly has adopted resolutions calling for an end to the violence and urging all parties to respect international law. However, these resolutions lack enforcement mechanisms and have had little impact on the ground. Some countries and international organizations have pledged humanitarian aid for Gaza. However, the delivery of this aid has been hampered by the ongoing blockade and the security situation. There have been growing calls for an independent investigation into alleged war crimes and for accountability for those responsible for violations of international law. Section 8. Faces of a Forgotten War. Personal Stories from the Abyss. Behind the statistics and the geopolitical complexities lie the human stories of loss, resilience, and despair. Ayman Shaghnubi, a young mother in Gaza, recounts the terror of living under constant bombardment, her children huddled in fear as bombs rained down around them. Shireen Abu Nida, a doctor in a Gaza hospital, describes the overwhelming influx of casualties, the shortage of essential medicines, and the impossible choices she faces daily. Musa Ali Muhammad al-Maghribi, a farmer in the West Bank, laments the loss of his olive groves, uprooted to make way for an Israeli settlement. These personal stories humanize the conflict, reminding us that behind the headlines are real people whose lives have been shattered by violence and displacement. Their stories serve as a powerful indictment of the human cost of this intractable conflict and underscore the urgent need for a just and lasting peace. Section 9. Towards a Just Peace, a Plea for Humanity. The ongoing conflict in Israel-Palestine is a tragedy for all involved. The cycle of violence, the loss of innocent lives, and the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Gaza demand an immediate and concerted response from the international community. A just and lasting peace can only be achieved through a negotiated two-state solution, based on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as the capital of a viable and independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. This solution must address the root causes of the conflict, including the occupation, settlement expansion, and the denial of Palestinian self-determination. The international community has a moral obligation to act decisively to end the bloodshed and work towards a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace, security, and dignity. The alternative is a perpetuation of the current cycle of violence and suffering, with devastating consequences for generations to come. The time for empty rhetoric has long passed. The time for meaningful action is now. As the world watched with bated breath, a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Palestine was finally signed on date. This historic moment marked a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness of prolonged conflict. The terms of the agreement are crucial, aiming to halt hostilities and provide a framework for lasting peace. The ceasefire includes the cessation of all military operations, the withdrawal of troops from contested areas, and the opening of humanitarian corridors to deliver much-needed aid to civilians affected by the conflict. Additionally, it calls for the resumption of peace talks under international mediation, addressing core issues such as borders, security, refugees, and the status of Jerusalem. Reactions from both sides have been mixed. On one hand, there is a palpable sense of relief and cautious optimism. Families torn apart by violence dare to hope for reunification. On the other hand, skepticism and mistrust linger, fueled by years of broken promises and failed negotiations. Internationally, the ceasefire has been welcomed with widespread support. Nations around the globe have pledged to assist in the peace process, offering diplomatic, economic, and humanitarian aid to ensure the agreement holds. However, the path to lasting peace is fraught with challenges. It requires unwavering commitment, not just from the leaders but from every individual touched by this conflict. The ceasefire is a critical first step, but it must be followed by genuine efforts to address the deep-rooted issues that have plagued this region for decades. As we reflect on this moment, let us remember that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, equality, and mutual respect. The world watches and hopes that this ceasefire will pave the way for a brighter, more peaceful future for both Israelis and Palestinians. The journey is long, but with determination and compassion, peace is within reach. As the dust begins to settle and the echoes of conflict fade, the focus now shifts to rebuilding and recovery in both Israel and Palestine. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but the resilience of the people shines through as they endeavor to restore their lives. In Israel, communities come together to rebuild homes, schools, and infrastructure damaged by the conflict. Volunteers work tirelessly, driven by a shared sense of purpose and hope for a more peaceful future. The scars of war are deep, but the spirit of unity and determination is stronger. In Palestine, the situation is equally complex. Amidst the rubble, families strive to reclaim their lives. International aid flows in, providing much-needed resources for reconstruction. The process is slow and arduous, but the resolve of the Palestinian people is unwavering. They rebuild not just their homes, but their dreams and aspirations for a better tomorrow. Both sides face immense challenges, from economic hardships to psychological trauma. Yet there is a palpable sense of hope and a collective commitment to move forward. Grassroots initiatives and community-led projects play a crucial role in fostering reconciliation and healing. The journey of rebuilding is not just about bricks and mortar, it is about restoring faith, trust, and a sense of normalcy. It is about creating a future where the next generation can grow up in peace and security. As the world watches, the efforts of these resilient individuals serve as a testament to the indomitable human spirit. In this chapter of recovery, every small step forward is a victory. It is a reminder that even in the face of immense adversity, hope and humanity prevail. The road to peace is long, but with each act of rebuilding, we inch closer to a brighter, more harmonious future for both Israelis and Palestinians. As the dust begins to settle and the echoes of conflict fade, the focus now shifts to rebuilding and recovery in both Israel and Palestine. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but the resilience of the people shines through as they endeavor to restore their lives. In Israel, communities come together to rebuild homes, schools, and infrastructure damaged by the conflict. Volunteers work tirelessly, driven by a shared sense of purpose and hope for a more peaceful future. The scars of war are deep, but the spirit of unity and determination is stronger. In Palestine, the situation is equally complex. Amidst the rubble, families strive to reclaim their lives. International aid flows in, providing much-needed resources for reconstruction. The process is slow and arduous, but the resolve of the Palestinian people is unwavering. They rebuild not just their homes but their dreams and aspirations for a better tomorrow. Both sides face immense challenges, from economic hardships to psychological trauma. Yet there is a palpable sense of hope and a collective commitment to move forward. Grassroots initiatives and community-led projects play a crucial role in fostering reconciliation and healing. The journey of rebuilding is not just about bricks and mortar, it is about restoring faith, trust, and a sense of normalcy. It is about creating a future where the next generation can grow up in peace and security. As the world watches, the efforts of these resilient individuals serve as a testament to the indomitable human spirit. In this chapter of recovery, every small step forward is a victory. It is a reminder that even in the face of immense adversity, hope and humanity prevail. The road to peace is long, but with each act of rebuilding we inch closer to a brighter, more harmonious future for both Israelis and Palestinians. Now let us delve into the role of the United Nations in this complex landscape. The UN has long been a key player in mediating the conflict and providing humanitarian aid. Its involvement spans decades, marked by both significant successes and notable limitations. Through various resolutions and peacekeeping missions, the UN has sought to broker peace and ensure the protection of civilians. On the ground, UN agencies work tirelessly to deliver aid, support refugees, and rebuild shattered communities. Their efforts are crucial, yet often hampered by political complexities and resource constraints. Critics argue that the UN's impact is limited by its inability to enforce decisions and the political interests of its member states. However, its role in fostering dialogue and providing a platform for international cooperation remains indispensable. As we assess the contributions of the United Nations, we must also acknowledge the broader international community's responsibility in supporting peace and reconstruction efforts. The journey towards lasting peace requires a concerted global effort, with the UN at the forefront of these endeavors. In the midst of rebuilding, the United Nations stands as a beacon of hope, striving to create a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can coexist in peace and security. Their work, though fraught with challenges, is a testament to the enduring pursuit of justice and humanity. As we move forward, let us remember the importance of collective action and international solidarity in overcoming the scars of conflict and building a brighter, more peaceful future for all. As we navigate the complexities of rebuilding and recovery, it is crucial to stay informed about the latest developments in the Israel-Palestine conflict. As of current date, the situation remains volatile, with new events unfolding that could shape the future of the region. In the past few days, there have been significant updates. Reports indicate that fresh ceasefire agreements are being discussed, with international mediators working tirelessly to broker a lasting peace. However, tensions remain high, and sporadic escalations have been observed in certain areas, causing concern among civilians and officials alike. On the diplomatic front, peace talks have resumed, with representatives from both sides engaging in dialogue aimed at finding a sustainable solution. The involvement of key international players continues to be pivotal, as they strive to facilitate negotiations and ensure that humanitarian aid reaches those in need. Amidst these developments, the humanitarian crisis persists. Aid organizations are ramping up efforts to provide relief, but the challenges are immense. The international community is called upon to offer unwavering support to alleviate the suffering and rebuild hope for the future. As we continue to monitor the situation, it is essential to recognize the resilience and determination of the people affected by this conflict. Their stories of survival and hope remind us of the urgent need for peace and reconciliation. Stay tuned for more updates as we keep a close watch on this evolving situation, bringing you the latest news and insights from the ground. As we move forward, it's essential to reflect on the recent developments that have shaped the landscape of the Israel-Palestine conflict. In the past few days, a fragile calm has emerged, punctuated by moments of tension and uncertainty. Most notably, a new round of ceasefire talks has shown promise, with both sides tentatively agreeing to a temporary truce. International mediators have played a crucial role in facilitating these discussions, urging both parties to prioritize humanitarian concerns and work towards a sustainable peace. On the ground, the situation remains precarious. Sporadic clashes have been reported, particularly in contested areas, highlighting the fragility of the ceasefire. However, there is a renewed sense of hope as local communities begin to rebuild and recover from the devastation. Diplomatic efforts have intensified, with key international players stepping up their involvement. The United Nations has called for an immediate end to hostilities and has pledged increased humanitarian aid to support those affected. Meanwhile, peace talks have resumed with a focus on addressing long-standing issues and laying the groundwork for a lasting resolution. The humanitarian crisis continues to be a pressing concern. Aid organizations are working tirelessly to provide relief to those in need, but the scale of the challenge is immense. The international community is urged to remain steadfast in its support, ensuring that aid reaches the most vulnerable and that efforts to rebuild communities are sustained. In the midst of these developments, the resilience and determination of the people affected by this conflict stand as a testament to the human spirit. Their stories of survival, hope, and perseverance remind us of the urgent need for peace and reconciliation. As we continue to monitor the situation, we will keep you informed with the latest updates and insights. Together, let us hope for a future where peace prevails and the cycle of conflict is finally broken. Stay tuned for more updates as we bring you the latest news from the ground. As the conflict continues to shape the lives of countless individuals, the importance of humanitarian aid cannot be overstated. In the midst of chaos and uncertainty, a concerted effort is being made by various organizations to bring relief to those most in need. Several prominent international organizations have stepped up their efforts. The International Red Cross, Médecins Sans Frontières, and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, are at the forefront, providing essential services. These organizations are delivering medical supplies, food, clean water, and shelter to communities ravaged by the conflict. The medical response has been particularly critical. With hospitals overwhelmed and resources stretched thin, emergency medical teams are working around the clock to treat the injured and sick. Mobile clinics have been set up in hard-to-reach areas, ensuring that even the most isolated communities receive the care they need. Food and water distribution is another vital component of the aid effort. Many families have been displaced from their homes, and access to basic necessities has become a daily struggle. Aid workers are tirelessly distributing food packages and setting up water purification systems to prevent the spread of waterborne diseases. Shelter is a pressing concern as well. Temporary housing solutions are being provided to those who have lost their homes. Tents, blankets, and other essentials are being distributed to ensure that families have a safe place to stay amidst the turmoil. However, the challenges faced by these organizations are immense. The volatile security situation often hampers the delivery of aid, putting both the aid workers and the recipients at risk. There are also logistical hurdles, with damaged infrastructure making it difficult to transport supplies to the most affected areas. Despite these obstacles, the resilience and dedication of the humanitarian workers remain unwavering. Their efforts are a beacon of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape, showcasing the power of compassion and solidarity in the face of adversity. As the international community continues to rally behind these efforts, it is crucial to maintain the momentum. Continued support and funding are essential to ensure that aid reaches those who need it most, and that the path to recovery is sustained. In the next segment, we will explore the latest developments in the ceasefire talks and the ongoing diplomatic efforts aimed at securing a lasting peace. Stay with us as we bring you more updates and insights from the ground. As the conflict unfolds, its ramifications extend far beyond the immediate region, reverberating across the global stage and reshaping international relations. Major world powers have been quick to react, each with their own strategic interests and geopolitical calculations. The United States, a key ally of Israel, has reiterated its support, calling for Israel's right to defend itself while also urging restraint to minimize civilian casualties. This stance has drawn criticism from various quarters, highlighting the complexity of balancing national interests with humanitarian concerns. Meanwhile, Russia has positioned itself as a potential mediator, calling for immediate ceasefire talks and offering to host negotiations. This move underscores Russia's desire to expand its influence in the Middle East, a region where it has historically played a significant role. China, on the other hand, has called for restraint from all parties and emphasized the need for a two-state solution. China's response is also shaped by its broader strategic interests, including its Belt and Road Initiative and its relationships with both Israel and the Arab world. The European Union has expressed deep concern over the humanitarian crisis and urged for an immediate cessation of hostilities. Several EU member states have also pledged additional humanitarian aid, reflecting the bloc's emphasis on human rights and international law. In the Arab world, reactions have been mixed. Countries like Egypt and Jordan, which have peace treaties with Israel, have called for de-escalation and a return to dialogue. Other nations, such as Iran, have condemned Israel's actions and expressed solidarity with the Palestinian cause, further exacerbating regional tensions. The conflict has also impacted alliances and partnerships. NATO allies are navigating a delicate balance, with some member states advocating for stronger condemnation of Israeli actions, while others align more closely with the US stance. This divergence highlights the challenges in maintaining a unified front in the face of complex geopolitical dynamics. Furthermore, the conflict has implications for global energy markets. Any escalation risks destabilizing the broader Middle East, a region critical to the world's oil supply. This potential instability has already led to fluctuations in global oil prices, underscoring the interconnected nature of international affairs. As the situation continues to evolve, the geopolitical landscape remains fluid. The responses of major world powers and the shifting dynamics of international alliances will play a crucial role in shaping the trajectory of the conflict and its aftermath. In the next segment, we will delve into the latest developments in the ceasefire talks and the ongoing diplomatic efforts aimed at securing a lasting peace. Stay with us as we bring you more updates and insights from the ground. As the conflict rages on, its economic impact is felt both locally and globally. In the immediate region, businesses have shuttered, trade routes have been disrupted, and the financial toll is mounting daily. The economies of both Israel and Palestine are facing severe strain, with infrastructure damage and loss of life contributing to an escalating crisis. In Gaza, the destruction of homes, schools, and hospitals has not only created a humanitarian disaster, but also crippled the local economy. The blockade, which has been in place for years, exacerbates the situation, making it nearly impossible for essential goods to enter or leave the region. Unemployment rates are soaring, and the local population is struggling to meet even basic needs. On the Israeli side, the cost of war is also significant. Military expenditures have skyrocketed, and the constant threat of rocket attacks has disrupted daily life and business operations. Tourism, a vital sector for Israel, has taken a massive hit, with cancellations and a sharp decline in new bookings. This downturn affects not only large businesses but also small enterprises and local workers who rely on the influx of tourists for their livelihood. The conflict's ripple effects extend beyond the immediate region. Trade routes through the Middle East are crucial for global commerce, and their disruption has led to delays and increased costs for international trade. Shipping routes in the eastern Mediterranean have become riskier, prompting higher insurance premiums and rerouting of vessels, which in turn affects global supply chains. Moreover, the financial markets have responded to the instability with volatility. Stock markets in the region have experienced significant fluctuations, and investor confidence has been shaken. The uncertainty has led to a cautious approach in investments, with many opting to wait out the conflict before making financial commitments. Humanitarian aid organizations are also feeling the pressure, as the need for financial assistance grows. The cost of providing aid to those affected by the conflict is immense, and funding gaps are becoming increasingly apparent. Governments and international agencies are being called upon to step up their financial support, but the scale of the crisis poses a daunting challenge. As we continue to monitor the situation, it is clear that the economic repercussions of the conflict will be long-lasting. The path to recovery will be arduous, requiring significant investment, international cooperation, and a sustained commitment to rebuilding the affected communities. In the next segment, we will explore the latest updates on the ceasefire talks and the diplomatic efforts aimed at bringing an end to the hostilities. Stay tuned for more insights and developments. The role of media in the conflict cannot be understated. As events unfold, media coverage shapes public perception and influences international opinion. Different media outlets, depending on their geopolitical stance and audience, have been presenting varying narratives. Traditional media, such as television news channels and newspapers, provide extensive coverage, often featuring on-the-ground reports and expert analyses. However, the portrayal of events can differ dramatically. Western media outlets might focus on the security concerns and retaliatory measures of Israel, while media from the Middle East may highlight the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the suffering of Palestinian civilians. Social media has further complicated the landscape. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram serve as real-time sources of information and misinformation. On one hand, they allow for the quick dissemination of news and personal stories from those directly affected by the conflict. On the other hand, they are breeding grounds for propaganda and fake news, which can escalate tensions and perpetuate falsehoods. Influencers and activists on social media have become key players, using their platforms to advocate for their respective causes. Hashtags and viral posts can bring attention to specific incidents, but they can also oversimplify complex issues and contribute to polarization. Misinformation spreads rapidly in such an environment. Deepfake videos, doctored images, and unverified reports can go viral before being debunked, causing confusion and mistrust. Fact-checking organizations and responsible journalism play a crucial role in combating this, but the sheer volume of content makes it a daunting task. The impact of media coverage extends beyond public opinion. Governments and international organizations often base their responses on the prevailing media narrative. Thus, the way the conflict is reported can influence diplomatic efforts, humanitarian aid, and even military strategies. As we navigate through this digital age, it is essential to approach media consumption with a critical eye, seeking out multiple sources and verifying information before accepting it as truth. The role of media in the conflict is both powerful and complex, and understanding its dynamics is key to grasping the broader picture. In our next segment, we will delve into the latest updates on the ceasefire talks and the diplomatic efforts aimed at bringing an end to the hostilities. Stay tuned for more insights and developments.